Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by MediaClip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we've got a twofer. We've got two guests. We've got Tim McCain, the Chief Evangelist of Captura, and Michelle Federschneider, who is the VP of Commerce, and she comes from outside the industry into school photography. So we're going to be talking about yearbooks, we're going to be talking about AI, we're going to be talking about technology, and it's going to be a great conversation. Hi, Tim. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
How are you, Gary? We're doing good.
Hi, good to be here.
Captura has been around in another form for a lot of years, and you announced earlier this year the name change and the introduction to the market of the Captura name, and also kind of combining all the platforms into one singular platform, if you will, the disparate parts from the various acquisitions. How's that been going, Tim?
It's been going great. We took ImageQuix, PhotoLynx, Skylab, Photo Merchant, Simple Photo, all those businesses over the last 2-3 years, and combined them, took the best things out of all of them, and put them into one complete platform. Right. Which, when we did that, we wanted to rebrand on the new identity, which is Captura, one new name and one new platform and one new experience for our customers. Like it's a customer centric now with all those and the features that we have in the system. We again taken all the best features out and building, and we're continuing to build. And we're all about making our customers more money, or more anything, more time.
Well, that's sort of the slogan there, right? Make more is sort of the slogan that's come with that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's been completely seamless, and there's been no hiccups through this whole process.
Yeah, it was easy, no problems. Like it was just, yeah.
All the customers love it. It's been
sure. Yeah, no, it's been an uphill battle. It's been a road. I mean, I had PhotoLynx for 20-something years. Yeah. And then just getting that and taking that experience into ImageQuix and then melding those cultures, right? And then we took Photo Merchant, another culture that had Simple Photo with them, and melding that, and then along with Skylab, which is now Enhance, right? All those people, like it's like a big marriage, right? Of a bunch of different families that come from different ways of thinking. And I think we've done good we have a thing called the Captura Way playbook, a Bible that we live by, right? And the way we treat people. And I think everybody's coming around. It's starting to get there. It was rough. There's no line. And there were some casualties in the war. We're stronger and better than ever.
Was there anything that when you were looking at putting this whole conglomeration together where your perception changed, where it's like you thought it was going to go one way and it went a different way based on either technology or customer input? Can you think of like one thing that kind of went in a different direction?
Yeah. One of the things I could say is the way that we approach the yearbook industry. That was different. We had ClickBooks, and we've revamped that, and it's Captura Yearbooks now. It's not just a name change. There's a bunch of stuff. But I thought the new PhotoLynx products, but were considered legacy because they were on the old platform, would continue on in the ClickGo, the ClickBooks world. That changed, and we went to this yearbook model that is quite different than we had thought originally, as well as the way that we go after the customer experience and customer marketing. Quite frankly, like with Michelle, the customer marketing way we used to do things, and that was a total shock to me. Like, again, I don't want to speak for Michelle, but we jumped in and we're like, she was looking at it and going, why are you guys doing stuff like this? Right. You know, with an outside perspective, because we had these 25-year blinders of school pictures in the industry. Michelle came in with fresh eyes and was, it's that changed the way we look at a lot of stuff. Like, Gary, we didn't even know before Michelle got here, to be quite honest, what an email yielded. Right. You know, we send out an email and Michelle's like, we got all those numbers now. We got all that data. She knows exactly what people are doing in the shop. She does A/B testing. Here, I'm stealing all your stuff.
That's okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think it's been and I've only been here since January, but I think it's been a continuation of what has worked well in the past, but we've gotten smarter. So we're investing in our data infrastructure and really understanding what's working well, building and refining our best practices from that. in addition to just automating. So like we've been doing things, that work really well, but how do we, automate things like cart abandonment emails or some of the things that can be really dynamic based on the parent's shopping behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good for the studio because some of those work really well. And it's also good because, it gives us a little time back to focus on some other more critical, like high value work operationally. So yeah, there's been a lot of good progress. And I think more than, just building on the foundation that was already there and getting a little maybe smarter with the ways that we're working.
So talk a little bit about where you came from, your background, and what you're kind of bringing to the volume photography space.
Sure. So I spent almost 17 years at Vistaprint, working across mainly marketing, merchandising, and product management.
Mm-hmm.
So Vistaprint is a solution that focuses on design and printing for small businesses, but we also have consumer lines, so stationery, photo gifts. So there were a lot of interesting parallels from how I worked on the e-commerce and the shopping experience at Vistaprint and how that translates to just how parents come and buy photos online. There's been a lot of interesting parallels to bring for this world to optimize. And at the end of the day, I think one of the nice things in the last 6 months or so is we've really tried to champion the parents' feedback and really bring that to life within our organization. So where are they getting stuck in the shopping experience? What are the things that they're looking for? What are their pain points? The feedback that they're sharing with us. For us to both understand that, to then cater our shopping experience or make tweaks to make that easier.
Sure.
Parents are shopping online all the time. And so the solution that we bring has to be really emotional because it's usually their child's image or a family member's image, but also really familiar and easy. And so it's really finding the balance between there. And a lot of that is what I did at Vistaprint. So it's been kind of a nice transition in a new industry where there's a ton of opportunity.
And Gary, she's not just guessing at stuff. So this is what I love about not just the data and the analysis that she brought with her, but she hired a firm that went out and did, shopping on our website and gave us feedback about what real moms going in, real moms and dads ordering pictures and then giving us video feedback.
Yeah.
That they said this was too hard to do. This was not, this was easy. This, looking at where the rage clicks are, like I think you had Pinto implemented with a lot of this stuff and right. And some of the testing.
Yeah.
So this is real-time data with real parents. And we're not just having a panel or we're not just guessing at what, like we've done in this for years. We've like, we think mom wants to do this, right?
Sure.
We know now. We've been interviewing her for several weeks now.
So one of the things I think that's different, that's changed over the last 5 years, is there's been more direct access to mom, if you want to call that the customer, than there has been in the past. Because in the bad old days of volume photography, the school controlled the contact with the parent, and that kind of goes by the wayside because this is kind of like a new application of a modern approach, if you will.
Right.
Can you give an example of when you're like doing A/B testing with an email, the kind of things that are resonating with mom that may in the old way they might have thought it was the other way?
Yeah. So, I mean, things like subject line testing. So, like, what's going to get them to open the email and look at the email, like, just engage. And then what are the types of tactics that will get them to click to see their image, to see the images online? It may sound overly simplified, but the more simple and direct our messaging is typically the better response rate that we get from mom.
Right.
80% of our traffic is coming to our site on mobile, so it needs to be punchy and to the point.
Right.
And so, sometimes in the past we had these really big images that were very branded to the studios, and while beautiful, the really core message would be pushed down pretty far on the page. And so
Right.
having like the buttons and the calls to action above the fold, having any discount messaging higher up on the page, really reducing image size, both for, ease of scannability, but also loading
Mhm.
within different devices has been really helpful. And so we've been able to fine tune a lot of those through really iterative rounds of A/B testing to get to what we deem like here's a best practice for each of our email templates based on
Mhm.
all of this testing. And so we can feel really confident as we implement those with all the studios, existing or new, that they're getting the best experience. And we continue to refine that. Even in the fall, we're continuing to test just with this volume and with
Mhm.
to continuously learn. So that's been really insightful.
That's kind of counterintuitive though, right? Because at least for our industry, because they always want the image to be the hero, right? Because that's the product
Yeah.
is, that great picture of your preschooler or the great picture of a middle schooler or whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily have the call to action very clear.
Yeah. And it's, we've found it's different spinning the message differently based on where you are in the life cycle. So like
Mhm.
your photos online is a great example of that. Like you want to see the image, it's this big reveal moment. That's when maybe the picture can really be the hero versus as you get into some of the seasonal campaigns through the holidays, maybe it's highlighting certain types of products that might incentivize to, people to come back and purchase again.
Right.
And being able to target those audiences in different ways with different messaging can be really impactful.
So, Tim, one of the things you mentioned earlier was yearbooks, and that's been an area of the marketplace that has really been through a lot in the last year or so. A lot of changes with
Yeah,
some of the software platforms, a lot of changes with some of the vendors, and kind of the emphasis. It seems almost to be like there's a bigger emphasis now on it because it's another print opportunity for the volume studios, especially those who are doing, preschool or elementary school. They're kind of the younger grades. I think
sure.
there's an opportunity there for like a soft cover kind of thing. What are you seeing? Because that's kind of where you came from, right? The yearbook is sort of your genesis into this business.
Yeah, we were with PhotoLynx, we were with workflow, and then we entered into the yearbook software market probably about 10 years ago. And the biggest change, Gary, is people are realizing that those are your photos that you took. Why aren't you making money off them?
Right.
Right. So the big yearbook companies of the past, they used to just hand over your PSPA CD and they would make a yearbook and that was that. And there's no way for the photographer to make any money off of their creative images, right?
Right.
So now people are like getting hip to that and they're creating their own books and there's easy ways to do it. There's companies out there that are publishers or aggregators of
Mhm.
that. And the software just makes it that much easier. We have
Mhm.
our Captura yearbook software that's just so simple and easy to use, especially for what you're talking about, those 44-page saddle stitch, easy books for the elementary school. We crush it and you can send it off to any number of places to get it handled.
Mhm.
One like a Studio Source or District Photo does some, and there's Strawberry Studios and Interstate, and all those guys do a lot of printing of those type of books. And if you're gonna take the image, why not capture the most amount that you can? Because you're doing a lot for free. You're going to those free shoots and taking yearbook photos, right? They're
Right.
going to the football game and capturing candidates that go into the yearbook, and that's somebody's time, that's somebody's money, that's somebody's effort, and we shouldn't just only get a part of the picture package. They should get a part of the yearbook.
Mhm. So, like I said, there's been a lot of changes in the marketplace. Is there
Yeah.
with some of your competitors?
They all got good software. We feel we have the best software. We also are a
Right.
software company. We're not a photography company that is putting out software. That tends to either cater to the company that
Right.
created its needs and not everyone else. We're taking everybody's feedback. Also, when they're busy printing their yearbooks and any other competitor, I'm speaking in
Right.
general terms, um, we're not. We're
Right.
a software company, right? We're busy with our customers' needs,
Okay.
not our own.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of the things when you talk about the value of a yearbook, right, that will help grow the market? How can we as an industry convey some of the value of a yearbook in a printed product? Because I think
Yeah.
that's something that as an industry we're not doing.
Yeah. Look, I'm a member of SPOA, a board member
Mhm.
of SPOA. I believe in the tradition of school
Mhm.
photography and yearbooks, right? 100%. And I think that, several companies have tried digital books, putting them on your phone, all that type of stuff. You're not going to have this phone. You're not going to have that media, but you can have that print. Everybody's running to the underneath their bed and pulling out the shoebox and they're grabbing photos. They're grabbing their yearbook from 30 years ago. They're bringing that to, the reunion. They're not, popping out the phone and saying, look at Jimmy when he, it's the traditional print that is so important. And I personally feel that yearbooks are the way that we're going to tie. Look, mom or dad, right? I keep saying mom because 85% of the purchasers are the mothers, but mom or dad can take a photograph of their kid themselves. Sure. They can get a damn good accidental headshot if they wanted to, right? They can't create a yearbook. They don't have the permission to put everybody else's photos in there for that child's memories later on in life. And I believe through yearbooks, we're tying the tradition of school photography back to that, right? So I believe yearbooks is something that they can't do on their own. And since they can't do it there on their own, we piggyback on that with school photography. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that we're seeing a resurgence right now where people are going away from, I just talked to a kid that's taking film in college, right? We're going back to this traditional stuff, and people have a longing for stuff that isn't made up. That's not generative AI. It's not fake. It's not phony. There's no filters, right? I want to see my child in the yearbook with the braces and the pimples. And this is me personally. I'm not knocking anybody that wants to have, but I want to see how goofy they were when they were goofy. That's part of the
you are offering the enhancement print product.
We have that because some people want that. Some people, and I get it. Me personally, though, I err on the traditional side of stuff. Maybe that's because I'm 52 years old, right? But I truly believe that we're getting more and more in that realm, and people are going back to that. There's a resurgence of people longing for the traditional, as we have these made, especially with the generative AI, and you can fake anything and deep fakes and all these videos where you don't know it's true and all this other stuff. We can have the reality of a print on a yearbook. And it's
one of the things I think you're touching on is sort of a thing that touches on various segments of the industry, right? Like you said earlier, people are shooting film, right? Kodak's back to making film 7 days a week, which is crazy when you think about it. But that gets back to, I think, where the value of school photography or even vacation photos and all this is, the authenticity of it, right? You can have AI generate, pictures of your trip to Paris, but what matters to you are the pictures you took of Paris, right? And I think that authentic piece is sort of something, technology is great. We all love technology, right? There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a tool to get you to whatever that memory is.
So look, Gary, there's guys like Ed Monahan that 15 years ago told us, prints, packages, and I can't remember
print
what
packages
else he said.
And screens.
Yeah. So Ed used to preach all that. I think that Ed was way ahead of his time. Smart guy, way ahead of his time. Right. So we're there now. Right. We can have all that content you're talking about. We can have the AI generated content. We can have content from mom. We can have professional content, all exist in the same spot. Like, how beautiful is that? We're getting there right now. Right now, we're messing with stuff that in Captura where you can upload, the parent stuff into a professional package. You get the professional print, right? And then the photographer gets to participate in creating something with the parent, right? And we do that now with yearbooks, with the Candid uploader. Parents can upload whatever they want into that, and somebody can put that in the book. So I think that we're getting there, and what Ed had foretold so many years ago is coming to fruition right now.
I think you're right, because I think the ability to customize a yearbook makes it even better, because I always thought one of the knocks on the yearbook was, especially at the high school level, right? If you had a big school, you might be in the candidate, you might be in a mugshot, and you might be in a team picture, but you may not be anywhere else in the book because either they didn't get your picture, or the photo editor didn't like you, or the picture was terrible, or whatever. But the ability to customize it with either the custom person's own photos is, I think, a huge opportunity that I think needs to be leveraged.
Yeah, I agree. Because otherwise, you got just pretty popular people like Michelle dominating the book, and us ugly guys
That's
don't get
right.
in it, Gary.
So, Michelle, from an e-commerce standpoint, you are charged with conveying this message, right? You've got to take this fairly
Yeah.
complex technology of, hey, you can change the people's, complexion a little bit, you can change the backgrounds, you can do some of these things, but you got to be able to convey that. What are your thoughts on the challenge of the industry on that?
Yeah, I think the role that we have to play as a software company and as a platform is to balance all of the wonderful aspects of customization, but to do that in a way that is very simple for the parent to
Mhm.
execute. And so, on our core website, it's the things like different backgrounds, different image editing options, right? Like, how do we do that in a way where it's actually fun, right? To like try out these different things to see how they're going to look and to get the photo that
Mhm.
you want. Um, and we're looking at the same thing for yearbooks. So, we have a portion of our business that's using our yearbook e-commerce solution. So it all has the ability to purchase books, to have things like add-ons for parents to, you mentioned a yearbook might only have a school photo, but parents can put, half page or full page notes or things like that for the students in there. And so that's a nice option. And so there's additional features that kind of make things feel more
Right.
personal. It has a benefit for the studio because, you can personalize your cover, you can add the name and the year. And so now that yearbook feels much more specific to the student. And, it kind of incentivizes the parents to buy because it's not just the generic thing that they might pick up in the
Right.
office, which can also be an option. But, we can, the studios can make a little more money off that. We give the parent a really easy
Mhm.
shopping experience. And so also the ability to market to them. That's something that we're really leaning into this year is all of the things I talked about that we're doing for our core business
Mhm.
for marketing. We can also talk to parents about yearbooks and remind them when it's yearbook season. You don't have to remember the flyer that the school hung on
Right.
the door, but you'll have something in your inbox that's really easy to order from. And so we're hoping studios see a real
Now,
benefit
in the
from that as
marketing
well.
piece, you probably have a lot of companies, customers who are, we'll just do it. We have that relationship. We can do it. We're smart people. And then you have another group of people who surely need all the help that they can get. How are you set up to kind of handle those two dichotomies? So I imagine you get a lot of people who either they haven't done a lot of yearbooks or they're trying to get into trying to grow that piece of their business. Other people said, hey, we've got our own printing plant where we've been set up for this for the years. We don't care. What's your approach there? How are you communicating with the customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have a couple of phases of just there's some awareness of like, hey, we're doing
Mhm.
yearbooks. Do you know the value as a
Mhm.
customer that a yearbook could bring to
Mhm.
your business and conveying those numbers? And to Tim's point, you're already doing the work. And so if there's an opportunity for you to get in with the school and to offer this as an addition to your business, that's a really
Right.
nice, gentle market. And we're really trying to aim the customers with, some of that, like what are the key messages? Like how do you go to the school and make this pitch? And, what are the really
Mhm.
compelling aspects of you as a photographer, but also the software that you can leverage from us to make that case. And so we have a number of resources online, and then we're really working with our customers individually to, help them get
Now, Tim,
those
from a
contacts.
technology standpoint, you mentioned, you've been dropping the Gen AI buzzwords and all those fun things, but you've got to be looking at it from a standpoint of, you can put all this stuff in there, but if it's not used or if it's used poorly or terribly, you've got challenges there. How are you evaluating what technology to put in there?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We have a great team. We have a great product team right now, and we use a lot of parental feedback, a lot of photographer feedback. Our product team gets together and they do their own testing. Yeah, there's a lot of new tech that you can put in there. We have our
Hmm.
machine learning team, like we were talking about AI. We have that in-house. We don't outsource any of that stuff. We already got those guys, right? So our product team looks at that. they say, hey, what about this? Or we have other committees that look at stuff and go, yeah, that would be good for this or that wouldn't. And then we also shop it around with some of our bigger clients that use yearbooks in our software to create them, right? The big thing that, Gary, I think that we have above everyone else is we don't create, SPOA or PSPA yearbook discs. When you put it into our Captura system and you use our Captura yearbooks, it's already there. So school logs on, all the panel pages are built
Right.
automatically because that's one of the big things that we have. Any subject info data that they need to change around. If instead of McCain, they said McCain's
Right.
with an S, right? They can do it right there. And you don't have to go back to your photographer to make a change to get them a new disc. All that stuff is just right there. And we're completely online with all of it.
And that alone is a big one, I'm sure, because things happen, right? Like you said, an extra S gets printed, an extra key gets held down in the input area, and it's
Right.
it's crazy on picture day, right? Trying to capture all this stuff.
Yeah, any number of things. And when it goes through our system, again, we know from school photography, one of the biggest pain points for years is creating those, I call them discs because I'm 52 years old, but those uploads, right?
Right.
Those links, Dropbox or however else they were getting them from the school to Jostens, Herf Jones, Taylor, any of those other publishing companies, right? In the years are now you just open up your Captura yearbooks
Right.
and it's there. So the school gets a link with their name, and they go and they create a password and their school's already uploaded into the system. They can start working on their book right away. There's no waiting. Oh yeah, that's really not Jimmy. That's
Right.
James. And then they
Right.
can change it, right? And which has never been able
So
to
are
be
you
done.
focused only on a print product, or are you going to be offering some sort of electronic version just to even just offer it, or do you think it's just not something the market really wants?
All right, so you
Right.
never say never, and I'm one voice in a
Right.
bunch, right? So we have a big team here. I personally think that it's been done and it's
Yeah.
flopped several times over. It's getting back to my
Right.
original statement of preserving school photography and preserving the tradition
Right.
of prints, right? It's a big thing that we do and we believe in core. We support the SPO, and that's what SPO is all about, right? The School Photographers of America. So I can't say that like I would be jumping up and down and saying, let's do that if the product team brought it over and said, this
Mhm.
is what we want to do. But again, I'm one vote in about 7 or 8.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I've seen those various things and I've seen the demos and all, and it seems like cool stuff, but it's almost like it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's also when I start thinking about that stuff, I think about 8 tracks and VHS and all the media changes and print's been through
Right.
the whole thing, right? We had prints in
Right.
the 1800s. So I don't like it. Again, like I wouldn't be the first person to do it, but again, you never
Mhm.
say never. If there's a market demand and it
Yeah.
started happening, we would
And I don't think it
participate
would
in
be a
that.
replacement for a yearbook. It might be an
I don't
add-on.
think it ever could be. Additive would be a good thing. We've seen it probably 5 or 6 times throughout the last 10 years. People pop up with stuff and they pop up with digital ID cards. And then, with a swoop of a pen, they say you can't bring your
Right.
phone to school. Right. And then,
Yeah.
then that's that. Right. So we don't know. The print
Right.
media is always going to be
Yeah, it's
around.
interesting you mentioned that about the school ID thing because that's exactly what's happening, right? In Michigan, we've got several school districts here who have said, nope, we don't want the distraction. We're going to take the kids' phones when they walk in, and they're going to.
Right. So if we have school IDs on our phones, digital IDs, what
Right,
happens then?
exactly.
Right. And the school's not
Right.
making the laws, the lawmakers are. There's a lot of nuanced stuff, but PVC cards aren't getting taken away, and neither is the paper
Yeah,
print
it
of a
is. It
yearbook.
is interesting how it's sort of always it's coming back around again. Now, a lot of schools are capturing video with their content that they're doing. Is there anything you can do with that in the print format? I've seen different people, they're doing screen grabs out of video and they're trying to do different things with QR codes to
Yeah.
launch videos.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this. About 15 years ago, I had a program
Yeah,
called Jump Seat. And we put QR
yeah,
codes into yearbooks, right? And you uploaded the video to a website, and then you would put your phone over that QR code, and then an AR marker would be there. Ed Monahan was who kicked this off for me when I went to one of his things at DP2 years ago. And so we created Jumpseat, and you could put a AR marker with a QR tag, and it would pop up with the wrestling video on the wrestling page, right? I think it was a little bit, again, ahead of its time. I think there's companies like Flam or
Yep, we're
RMBR
doing that.
right
Yep,
now,
Chris
Chris
Garcia.
Garcia, that are doing that. And I think you could actually do it yourself too. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, but that's cool stuff too. But I'm going to go back a little bit again, is what happens when that website's down, what happens when the QR code, it's the print. It has to be additive.
Right.
It can't be in supplement.
At least you've got that
right?
print, right? It just to kick off that video.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's all neat
Michelle,
stuff,
from
right?
a marketing standpoint, there's a lot going on in kind of the education world that's kind of a challenge, right? I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about the volume photography business, and they said, well, it can't grow that much because they aren't building any more schools. So so to have healthy growth in an industry, where are you seeing opportunities for growth?
We look at a couple different factors. So one is just like, are we getting people to participate? So how many,
Participation
are they
rate, buy
buying
rate,
something?
the classic,
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think the bigger opportunities that we're seeing is in how we can increase that average order value. So I talked about the simplicity of the experience. That's something we're leaning into. Like, how do you make it easier to get the second or the third product in the single session without needing to recustomize or go through the whole
Right.
process again? And certainly there are other, new products. There are other ways that can be really impactful for average order value. And then the third is just multiple purchases. And so that's something, again, that we're really focused on, even for buyers. So let's say you've come and you've bought a print, but over the holidays, like, can we talk about the specialty
Right.
items we
Yeah,
have, or
this is
the
sort of the
cards?
remarketing, retargeting kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly, like the mugs for Mother's
Right.
Day, or get one-stop shop to get everything you need. And so incentivizing the second purchase, again, with the data of knowing maybe what they've purchased
Right.
before and making it
Or even
different
if
or
they didn't
relevant.
purchase, maybe it's because at that time they didn't want anything, but
Exactly.
maybe now they want a Christmas ornament for grandma.
Yeah, and we're trying multiple tactics to see like what resonates with these different audiences and different segments. So the people that don't participate initially, will they 60 days later with certain types of promotions, or with different products featured, or with just a different message, as you mentioned. So there's a lot of opportunity to kind of play with, all three of those to increase both who's participating, but also the value that we're getting from each of the
And how are
participants.
you guys talking to your customers, the studios, about this opportunity? Because I think that's the other piece of it, right? You got to have to have them buy in.
Yeah, Gary, we have a wonderful marketing team here. Besides the B2C marketing team and the commerce, which Michelle does, we also have guys like James and Emily and Ann and Leighton that work here that push out at events, right? We have our MVP event. We're at SPAC, we're at SPOA. We do a lot of stuff there, but we also do webinars. We did one today on Yearbooks. One went out today with Christian and Brendan Colopy from Strawbridge, talking about the importance of yearbooks and taking your photos and making money off them, right? So we try to do a lot of education around it. Again, this is, for one, me. I've been doing this 25 years. I love this. This is my legacy. I want to see this all the way through. And all the way through means it's still thriving when I'm gone, right? When I'm not here, when I'm not around. So we love this. We believe in the tradition of it. We want our customers to make more money off of the photos that they take. What Michelle was talking about, the stuff about the holidays, really blows me away, because you think about it, and we've never really, some people have done it, not at scale. We're all PNG dropped out backgrounds now, right? So we can take and we can do our fall photo, but then we can turn around and put, snow behind that at Christmas and put it on a mug and say happy holidays for grandma, right? People have done that onesie twosie, but we're doing it in mass. And I think that's the neat thing that we can do now.
So where can people go for more information to learn about all the wonderful things in the world of Captura?
Yeah, so they can go to captura.io, right? And we've got all kinds of stuff in there. They can sign up for our newsletter. They can sign up for We have classes that they can sign up for. There's a bunch of videos there. And if you go to captura.io/products/yearbooks, then you can learn all about the yearbook stuff that we're doing right now.
Well, thanks, Tim. Great to see you again. Great to meet you, Michelle. And looking forward to seeing you at an upcoming event, probably SPAC. So, all right,
Yes,
talk to you
sir.
soon.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Gary.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.